Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad Tehami. In today's program, we are going to take a stock of the situation that has developed in Afghanistan. This is the month of August, and in this very month of August, it was the Afghan Taliban that took over the presidential palace in Kabul back in 2021. It's about to be a fourth anniversary pretty much around the corner on 15th of August. And Afghan Taliban had made an international promise, an international obligation they had to fulfill as per the Doha peace accord, that they won't allow the Afghan soil to be used for the terrorist activities. But they haven't been able to fulfill that particular promise, and despite the irrefutable evidence when it comes to Pakistan's concerns that the Afghan nationals, also the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, which has been termed as Fitna al-Khawarij, and also other groups like Balochistan Liberation Army, another banned outfit, they have taken safe haven on the Afghan soil, and they are perpetrating terrorism, launching their attacks inside Pakistan. Hence, Pakistan witnessed a resurgence of terrorism. Despite Pakistani authorities conveying their continuous concerns to the de facto authorities in Afghanistan, there has been largely a pattern of denial on the part of the interim Afghan authorities. But most recently, we have seen a little bit of development as far as the repair of this particular bilateral relationship between Pakistan and the interim Afghan authorities is concerned. We have also seen the upgradation of the diplomatic relations from the level of charge d'affaires to the level of ambassadors. There was an informal summit between the foreign ministers of Pakistan, Afghan authorities, and China. And the Afghan Taliban have also been invited for the larger interest of the Afghan people to join the China-Pakistan economic corridor. At the same time, a recently released report by the United Nations Taliban Sanctions Committee monitoring team has come up with the alarming revelations. Once again, we have seen similar sort of reports in the past years as well, talking about how the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan has got that operational freedom on Afghan soil. Not only that, but they have also got the access to the lethal weapons, which were, of course, left by the international troops while they were withdrawing from Afghanistan. Now, this particular report specifically talks about the banned Balochistan Liberation Army and banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan having close coordination. This report also talks about the number of banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan fighters, which happen to be around 6,000, and they continue to get the substantial logistical and operational support from the de facto authorities, which are, of course, the Afghan Taliban ruling that war-ravaged country since back in 2021. This particular report also talks about banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan's access to weapons, which were, of course, left by the American troops as they were withdrawing from the war-ravaged country. Also, this report talks about the kind of environment that is prevalent there in Afghanistan, saying that the Afghanistan Taliban continue to maintain a permissive environment for a range of terrorist groups, including Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, posing a serious threat to the security of the Central Asian and other countries as well. This particular report also talks about ISIL Khorasan being a more serious threat, not only regionally but also internationally, and also banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan trying to diversify its relationship when it comes to its collusion with this particular group as well. At the same time, Pakistan Institute for Conflict and Security Studies has come up with the stats regarding the month of July. There has been a slight increase in militancy in the month of July 2025 as compared to the month of June 2025. All these important developments are for discussion. For that, we are honored to be joined in the studio by Dr. Maria Sultan, defense analyst. Dr. Maria, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Also, in the studio, we are honored to be joined by Mr. Air Vice Marshal retired Ijaz Malik, his senior analyst. Mr. Malik, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Later on, in the show will be joined by another participant. As he joins in, I'll be introducing him as well. Let's begin with you, Dr. Maria Sultan. This specifically starting from this particular report, then I will go into a little bit of depth as to what the developments have been. And now, since Afghanistan is going to observe that fourth anniversary of the Afghan Taliban takeover of Kabul back in 2021, what could be the way forward as far as their international commitments are concerned? How startling and alarming are these revelations in this particular report by the United Nations?
I think what's important is to understand that this is not a startling revelation, this is a factual revelation. So the fact of the matter is this, that the Doha process had built in it that the Afghan territory would not be used for any kind of terrorist activity. We have seen in the last 4 years that despite the interim government's commitment to the international community, it failed miserably to rein in these terror organizations. According to various other international reports and also various accounts, it is believed that more than 22 different terror groups are operating off Afghan territory. And of course, if these terror groups are operating off in Afghan territory, this basically means that each one of them is positioned against one regional country or another, henceforth are contributing to regional instability. Third is the fact that they are also aided and abetted by some regional actor. Just to put just to give some statistics, we did a study at our center and it believed that just to carry out a normal, terrorist attack, just to co-opt or to create one one person towards terrorism, it costs around anywhere between 20 crores to maybe 30 crores. So this basically means that if you're talking about various terrorist activities in your country, I'm not talking about those activities where there is an actual terror incident. I'm talking about when you're trying to, bring in and lure somebody towards terrorism. This one person alone costs almost that much money. So this means that somebody is funding it. This means that terrorism is an enterprise. This means that there is always an aiding and abetting concept which is behind it. And it also means that we have to think very strategically when it comes to countries which are going against not only what Afghanistan is going against or the Afghan interim government is going, because if it is based with India, if it is it's a question of continued collaboration which existed in the former Afghan-Indian connection, and then it continues today with the Indian government and Indian functionaries supporting in certain cases Afghan Interior Ministry for looking the other way while facilitating all these terror organizations, then of course there's a bigger question mark with regards to FATF, with regards to UN Security Council Resolution 1373, and so on and so forth. So one, the report is not startling, it is more factual. Two, we are dealing with terrorism and we have seen a significant spike in terrorism in Pakistan. Three, it is very Pakistan-centric. So this is not terrorism, this is non-state actors being used for terrorism in Pakistan. So that's three. And number four is that we are not dealing with ordinary terrorists, we're dealing with militarized terrorism. So we're dealing with people who are militarily trained, equipped by another state actor, and Indian state officials are on record saying that they are going to use terrorism against Pakistan, which they believe is conducting terrorism against them, though they have failed to show any tangible evidence for this. Bayan al-Marsoos basically outlined the fallacy in this argument. So this is what we are dealing with, and I think the report should have gone one step forward and actually held not only the Afghan government accountable but also India accountable for the activities which it is carrying out. And let's not forget that along with India is also a lot of connivance between Israel and India as they have become strategic military partners in terms of operations and also in terms of their understanding of what they believe is counterterrorism.
Okay, Dr. Maria, so that brings us to a very interesting question. If we try to take a stock of the entire situation, there was a time when Pakistan was facilitating the Afghan peace and reconciliation process. I remember exactly that very critical point in time when that particular Doha peace accord on 29th of February was being signed. The US Special Envoy, Zalmay Khalilzad, was there, and also Mullah Abdul Ghani Barade, if I'm correctly remembering his name. They shook their hands and they both thanked Pakistan for their pivotal role in making that particular process go through and reach to some particular substantial conclusion. Indian media, the people in India were clearly not happy that it was Afghan Taliban which were taking over which were taking over Kabul. We saw, you already mentioned in your take, there was collusion when it came to Hamid Karzai's government and Ashraf Ghani's government, the intelligence agency of that particular setup, those particular setups in Afghanistan, colluding with the intelligence setup of India. Where was there any sort of miscalculation as far as our perception about Afghan Taliban 2.0 is concerned? Did we expect much from them? And where
did we go wrong?
Where did Afghan Taliban get into the hands of the Indians? Because they were clearly not happy with the Afghan Taliban taking over Kabul.
You've asked $1 million question, and I'm going to endeavor to answer it to the best of my ability. The $1 million question is this, that Pakistan facilitated the Doha process. Pakistan facilitated the Taliban interim government to come into the negotiating table and then to negotiate their way through peace, not through war. We facilitated it, we aided it, and we abated it as well. The challenge for us came that once Kabul fell, what was the notion of victory which was given? The notion of victory was not this, that there is peace and stability in Afghanistan. The notion of victory suddenly became about women. It suddenly became about women education. So something which started as a counterterrorism operation ended up being as a notion of victory as women education. Now this transformation basically meant what? It basically meant two things. One, that you are not going to recognize the interim Afghan government. And for that, they need to follow through a constitutional political process. So this basically meant that suddenly something which was inter-Afghan, you suddenly landed up into an intra-Afghan debate. What the Afghans decide for themselves or what they don't decide for themselves is not my calling, not your calling, not nobody's calling. But by linking your diplomatic acceptance of the Taliban with an intra-Afghan process, what happened? You isolated the Taliban regime, and you also brought them back to the old interlocutors. And who are the old interlocutors? These are the old agencies which had used the Afghan government, the Afghan state, for their own nefarious agendas. Whether it was India, whether it was on one part of the US establishment, whether it was some parts of extra-regional players, they had all used the erstwhile Afghan government for using it as a regional hub for their own agendas. So when the new interim Afghan government came, it actually had no diplomatic space in which it could sustain a government. So invariably it fell through. You know, the $4.2 billion defense aid which they're getting from the United States still continues. The defense cooperation and intelligence cooperation which exists between India and the Afghan Ministry of Interior still continues. The diplomatic or bilateral relations which should have actually paved the way for a new approach, you know, some kind of pressure, some kind of leverage on the new interim Afghan government ceased to be. It's only after that Russia has now accepted the Taliban and the Chinese are now looking into upgrading. You know, Chinese have already upgraded before us that, you know, their ambassadorial relationship and others, that we are now having some kind of leverage. If you don't recognize a government in its entirety,
this is a very important point.
Then how do you expect them to sustain themselves? You know, how is the government going to sustain itself?
Yeah, that is a very interesting point. And I'll come back to you for your deeper understanding regarding that, because Russia recently gave them the official recognition. Pakistan at that particular point in time had a very clear stance that we will follow what the international community is going to do. We are not going to do it alone.
But that cost us.
Mr. Ijaz, Malik, your understanding regarding as to the expectation from Taliban 2.0, their international obligation as per the Doha Peace Accord, Indians clearly not happy with the Afghan Taliban taking over Afghanistan once again. How did Indians get that ingress if they are funding and terror financing the terrorist groups, which have clearly got the support from the Afghan Taliban as well as per these reports by the United Nations?
Well, Dr. Sabah has very candidly, described what actually went on during that time. If you just go in flashback, right here in this studio, we were sitting on multiple programs, and most of the analysts were very jubilant over Afghan interim government being installed, and the notion of victory was at that point in time that American forces have left and the Afghans are Taliban are back. Pakistan facilitated. Pakistan had very strong footprint in all this negotiation.
But the point, Mr. Ijaz Malik, the point is, whoever was there, as far as Pakistani authorities are concerned, Pakistan has had done a lot for the Afghan people for over the number of years. It's been 40 years of war. 20 years of war on terror, and there was the Afghanistan was war ravaged before that one as well. Pakistan hosting millions of Afghan refugees. Pakistan has always said they didn't have any favorites in Kabul. They just wanted a peaceful, united, and a stable Afghanistan. Now, from that particular point onwards, what should have been the priority as far as Pakistan's policy towards Afghanistan is concerned?
Well, we were trying to portray that we are part of this, if there was a notion of victory, and the optics that we gave, that obviously gave, I think, an ignition to Indian to get back that space which presumably they had lost after the change of government in Kabul, and obviously they did their maneuvers very well, and we, after having installed that government through Doha Accord, we sided with the other part of the world, the rest of the world. It was Taliban versus rest of the world 11, and we, instead of capitalizing by installation of the Talibans over there, we were trying to pursue the humanitarian cause, the women cause, as Dr. Sabah mentioned, and certain other concerns. And the difference between the first government and then 2.0 is that the Talibans have not changed. We thought that they are now more civilized and more very amicable, and solutions are just around the corner. They are now actually, they have learned diplomacy.
Okay, here's the point.
How
here's
to
the
play
point.
their cards.
Mr. Ijaz Malik, here's the point.
Please.
Here's the point. You're saying that we left the Taliban on one side and we took the side with the rest of the world. Does it specifically pertain to the recognition of the Afghan?
Yes. May I say something?
Please go ahead.
I think what you've asked is brilliant. We have been hosting the Afghan.
We facilitated the peace and reconciliation efforts.
We did everything by the book. We have taken much more than our share for international security. Where did we go wrong? We did not negotiate our interests. We should have negotiated the fact that we want these Afghan refugees back. We need better, effective border management. That should have been our precondition for the Doha process. But we went ahead. And then what was the condition? There was a lot of pressure on Pakistan and Islamabad that Pakistan should not recognize the Taliban government. Pakistan should not recognize the interim government. All right, we went with the international community. We said we will do it when everybody agrees, when the 6 parties agree, and so on and so forth. Consequent result was what? Everybody negotiated a bilateral framework. And we, despite the fact that we are the largest affectees of the Afghan war, did not negotiate any of our concerns. We became, the punching bag for the new interim Afghan government, because they said, okay, now we want to do this, we want to do that. If you remember, there was also a big crackdown on currency. Our currency was floating, and we did the crackdown, and as a result of that crackdown, that happened. Let's not forget something. Do you know right now what is the value of the Afghan rupee? It is around 8 rupees to $1, or I think something to that effect. And what is the value, or 80 rupees to $1? And what is the effect of Pakistani rupee? It's around 288, right? So this basically means that you are paying for the depreciation cost. And second question is that Afghanistan is right now an illegal, technically interim government.
Yeah.
How come they're still receiving billions of dollars of aid in dollars in defense spending? How come they're receiving all of this money? And where is this influx of dollars actually coming, and where is it going? It's all going towards illegal economy, and that illegal economy's direct effectee is you. We didn't negotiate all of this, and the end result has been, since you have suddenly picked up a global agenda on women's education and so on and so forth, you came out of the realpolitik. The realpolitik was that we wanted some understanding on the refugees. The realpolitik was that we wanted better border management. The realpolitik was we wanted tangible efforts on terrorism. The realpolitik was that we wanted some access into the mining in Afghanistan. And the realpolitik was that we wanted these people who have been trained in Pakistan to be readjusted in Afghanistan on better positions. We negotiated none of that. We went for this global agenda of what they wanted to sell to their people, because their people believed that this entire war was about educating Afghanistan. It was not about educating Afghanistan. It was about fighting a global war for global perception, for global industry, for so on and so forth. So this is where we have made our mistake. So and this is where we need to address it.
Your point is well understood. I'll come back to you for taking this point further for discussion. We are now joined by another participant, Mr. Hassan Khan. He is Afghan affairs expert, joining us on the video link. Mr. Hassan Khan, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. What's your understanding as far as the findings of this particular report by the United Nations is concerned?
Tehami, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand your questions. Please, if you can.
Mr. Hassan Khan, the United Nations Taliban Sanctions Committee monitoring team has come up with another report. We have seen similar sort of reports in the previous years as well, talking about is the kind of freedom Band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan enjoys on the Afghan soil and the kind of support they get in terms of logistical support as well as the support in terms of operations on Afghan soil from the Afghan Taliban. And also now it says that it is trying to diversify its relations, also getting into contact with the IS Khorasan as well, which poses the most serious threat, not regionally, but also internationally. First of all, I want your understanding regarding as to the findings of this particular report.
Thank you very much, Tehami. I think this report is, if you look at this, is not the first report. A previous report also almost mentioned the same things, the same issues. What I see is that the Afghan Taliban seems to be testing the nerves of the international community. Though the international community is that much united vis-a-vis the Afghan Taliban. You know, the last, when there was a last meeting chaired by Pakistan, the US was very much annoyed over the way Russia has recognized the interim regime of Afghan Taliban in Afghanistan. So these are the fact, and the Pakistan's permanent representative Wasim Iftikhar, he has repeatedly said it on the floor of the United Nations Security Council that look, there are still ungoverned spaces inside Afghanistan, and these ungoverned spaces are being used by the international networks, by the terrorist networks, and that is a fact. It is not only Pakistan's which is being in threat of these terrorists, and already, especially the TTP, but there are certain new things in this current report. It also mentioned that the TTP, the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, which Pakistan has been calling it as Fitna al-Khawarij, that there are reports that they are giving training to the militants or to these extremists from Bangladesh. And there are also reports that there is a collaboration between the TTP, the BLA, the Majid brigades, and the others. And even these reports also try to highlight the relationship between the ISK and the TTP. It means that this whole network of terrorist syndicates inside Afghan territory, it is not only threatening the regional or the neighboring countries, Pakistan, Iran, or China, etc., or the Central Asian state. The threat is beyond this region, and the international. It can threaten the West and even the U.S. interest also. But the problem is not that these problems are already highlighted, and I think hardly there will be any country or any individual who is focusing on Afghan. They will be hardly not aware of what this report has mentioned. The problem is how to build the gate, how to, I think, convince the Taliban, the Amarat-e-Islami, to control or to take action against these elements. And there is, if I say that they may not be providing the financial support for a terror network, finances is not a problem at all. Because, you know, as far the TTP is concerned, we know, or the BLA or the Majid Brigade is concerned, India is hugely financing them. And India is not doing it in a way strictly. They have announced it time and again. Their national security advisor has announced it. Their prime minister has a number of times said it. So financing is not a problem. The provision of a space or tolerating them, or even this report has mentioned permissive attitude of the Afghan Taliban to this terrorist network, that is very much annoying. So the question is, yeah, I think the crux of the matter is how can the international community be united to convince or I will say how to punish them to an extent where the Afghan people are not instead of punishing the Afghan people, the ruling junta of Kabul, they need to be punished. So for that, I think there is a need of unity among the international community. And you look at that.
Let me hold you for a second over here. When you specifically talk about there is a requirement of unity among the international community. Now, this term international community is a very broad term. As far as when we talk about the regional powers, collectively they would also be called as international community. Then they were the invaders, the US and the NATO troops that came into this particular country, and they made that hasty withdrawal. And the kind of weapons which were left back in Afghanistan are now very much available, continuously available at the hands of Band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, which they have already used in perpetrating terrorism in Pakistan. What do you mean by unity among the international community? We have seen Russia recognizing the interim Afghan authorities, and which has clearly been condemned by the United States of America. We saw the Moscow format happening, then the parallel, the Doha peace process was happening at the same time. So I want your understanding how that unity could be witnessed as far as the collective approach of the international community from the West as well as from the regional countries is concerned.
Look, Jawad, I think look at the behavior of the international community when there was a resolution tabled in the United Nations General Assembly, which has almost 193 countries. Look at the countries which was there to criticize the policies of the Afghan, the interim government, Amarat-e-Islami, on Pakistan. In this entire region, Pakistan was the only country which supported that resolution, criticizing the policies of the Taliban regime vis-a-vis women, vis-a-vis opposition, vis-a-vis keeping these terror networks, have a soft corner for them. India abstained from that. China abstained from that. Russia, Iran abstained from that resolution. Israel and the US opposed that resolution. So even the international community has not that much of what we call it enthusiasm and have a collective approach to collectively condemn or collectively criticize the regime's policy, this discriminatory policy toward half of its population, the women population. So I think that is where what I'm saying, this dichotomy or this hypocritical approach of the international community. Yes, we say something, but we do something others. If that resolution, at least that resolution deserved to have been passed unanimously. But instead of being passed unanimously, the great powers, as I said, Russia, China, Iran abstained, and India abstained from it. Israel and the US, they opposed that resolution. So I think there seems to be a hypocritical approach to this the Afghan Taliban's regime there. I think at least what I want to say, I'm not against, okay, they are a de facto government. There is no doubt in it. Pakistan's need to have a special relation with them. Yes, that shall be there, because we already know that we are too much as far as this Afghan transit side is concerned. We have problems there. But as for at least we shall be united on the condemnation. So when the word is not, so as that problem of the leftover weapons, the killing machines, the sophisticated killing machines, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, these weapons which are available with the terrorists, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa police can't think of it. They are using drones, they are using long-range snipers, they are using thermal guns, they are using
this particular point. Let's leave it there for now. I'll come back to you for your understanding regarding as to this availability of these lethal weapons at the hands of these terrorist outfits, the kind of capacity when we talk about the two provinces, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province and Balochistan province being the hardest hit because of this resurgence of terrorism, and more specifically the capacity of the law enforcement agencies in KP. Dr. Sultan, is Pakistan doing things differently now? There's been a little bit of improvement or kind of repair in the recent past. We've upgraded the diplomatic relations, although we haven't recognized them officially. But from the level of charge d'affaires to the level of ambassadors, do you think now the things, since you were of the view that Pakistan did not negotiate its own interests at that time of signing of the Doha Peace Accord, are the things being done differently now, and how could they be done further differently?
First and foremostly, the Doha process is critical in our understanding of the Afghanistan peace and Afghanistan's future. You know, all the talk about women, all the talk about everything else, was this on the Doha process agenda's foremost list? Unfortunately, no. There were other things which were negotiated. There was an American troop withdrawal, which was at the center of everything. The American weapons which were left, they were undocumented, unaccounted for. Future of the Afghan National Army, what it was going to do and how it was going to operate was, you know, unsolicited. And most importantly, we saw a government in exile. So we saw the entire Afghan government either based in Pakistan, Uzbekistan, UK, so on and so forth. So the end result was that you are chasing dragons while the reality on ground is different. The reality on ground is that you're facing terrorism. The reality on ground is that people are negotiating with the Taliban economic interests. So yes, we need to have some leverage, either through the international system or we need to have a leverage through the national bilateral framework. So we are working on that. Second thing was that what you had said, that we have been host to so many Afghan refugees. But did we come up with a visa regime which was actually effective and in favor of Pakistan? No. The classic argument which you will hear is that there are so many you know, Afghan refugees in Pakistan, they're contributing to Pakistan's economy. Which economy? Informal economy? How many of them are taxpayers? How many of them are legally working? None, unfortunately, because there is no legal space for them to work, one. And number two, they are operating behind shadows while co-opting and using every illegal means to do this. Just to give you a statistic, how many people actually cross Bin Boldak? Around 100,000 people per day. And out of those 100,000 people per day, how many of them actually go back? Actually, how many of them are actually getting official visas? Less than 2%. That means on average 200 to 400 visas per day. So if 100,000 people are entering Spin, Boldak, Shaman and these areas, and only, you know, less than 1,000 people are applying, then it basically means statistically there's something wrong. And three, how many of them actually go back? 90% of them remain in Pakistan. So this basically means when we go to the international community, they call them illegal immigrants, economic immigrants. So recategorizations of issue is important. Recategorization of the Afghan transit trade. Now, should it be Afghan transit trade? Now that it's an interim government, whatever government you're calling it, it's a government in play. So if it is a government in play, then you need to renegotiate. Or are we supposed to still deal with Afghanistan as something which we dealt with in 1979? What is going to be the cost to your economy? What is going to be the cost for the future regional stability? Yes, there is a stake with regards to Russia, Afghanistan, you know, regional connectivity options, China, Russia, Afghanistan options, Afghanistan, Iran options. Where is Pakistan, Afghanistan options? So yes, we are negotiating. We are hopeful that we will be initiating something which would at least initiate and actually put center Islamabad's presence in the Afghan affairs, one. Number two, to talk very squarely on the Afghan refugee issues. Number three, to talk very squarely on the criminality and terrorism interface. And number four, to see what is it that you can negotiate with the interim Afghan government with regards to the governments in exile, which are still in Pakistan, some of them, and some of them are of course placed elsewhere. But the fact remains that unless and until we do not see things for what they are on ground and what they represent, you are not going to be back on the table. And Islamabad needs to be back on the table. We are back on the table, at least we are taking a very strong action. The you know, Field Marshal has said very clearly with regards to the Afghan refugees, so we have put them back. That has put a lateral pressure on the Afghan government, and of course they're more amiable. We have taken very strong actions against counterterrorism, and we have told them that if they're going to be drone attacks against Pakistani posts from Afghanistan, we will consider this as a direct threat to Pakistan. If you're going to attack our posts, please be ready for a retribution. Yes, of course, that has heightened the pressures, but of course these pressures need to be readdressed in terms of the larger framework. We have done a crackdown on illegal, you know, dollars coming from, and the Honda and Hawali and Hawala system which is coming out. But this is not enough that Pakistan is doing this. International frameworks have to respond to it. And last but not least, if the world wants an economic future in this region, Afghanistan has to stabilize. If Afghanistan doesn't stabilize, it's in nobody's interest. So we have to go with a regional approach. I would differ from the international community's approach because I think while it is good on paper, it's good for Europe, it's not good for us because we are living with the after effects. We need to go for a regional approach. If it is looking at bilateral engagement, we should do bilateral engagement. If it is looking at Pakistan, China, Afghanistan engagement, we do Pakistan, China, Afghanistan engagement. If it means that we engage with the Moscow process, that means Pakistan, Moscow and Afghanistan, we do that. If it means only Pakistan, Afghanistan, then we do that. And we should initiate and support all such processes which are going to put some kind of bearing on the interim Afghan government to relook at regional security situations and understand that their future is with the region, not with the extra regional players, because extra regional players, though at this time are funding the Afghan government, and the larger interest, whether it is India, whether it's United States, are not interested in the long-term stability of the Afghan government.
So what about Pakistan's counterterrorism efforts, which have been praised and so highly talked about by President Donald Trump himself? That very State of the Union address, Pakistan was the only country that was named for its counterterrorism efforts, Pakistan being the frontline ally in the war on terror. Mr. Ijaz, Malik, which option you would go for? More for regional approach, or should we also be expecting anything substantial when it comes to US understanding of our suffering during the war on terror and anything we could expect from them? Especially under Trump 2.0, because this Doha peace accord was also struck during his first term.
Well, I think that statement of President Trump was just, given a very naive horn effect. I mean, it was not a policy statement, and it would not change any ground realities. We have to see. I mean, what you asked and what Mr. Hassan was replying, international approach, Afghanistan is not on the international radar for the time being. They have done their
international radar. Again, I would ask you, what international radar? Are you speaking in terms of regional countries collectively?
Let me explain.
Being international, or are you looking at it through the lens of, when we talk about international, that includes US and other NATO allies of its?
Once we say international, it essentially means the world effort or a community of world nations led by America and Europe. And they are busy with Ukraine conflict, Gaza, Iran, and then there was, for a brief time, of course, Pakistan, India. So they are not very keen to find any solution. So what Dr. Sabah is saying.
So do you think we are doing differently something now, which you already said that Pakistan took the side for the rest of the world, leaving the interim Afghan authorities alone at that particular point in time? Now the upgradation of ties, do we understand it's a precursor to the recognition?
Yes, it could be. And its solution lies in the regional countries. China, for example, can play a very pivotal role, because why China abstained from that General Assembly resolution? Because they have stakes in Afghanistan. So they would not like to, annoy Kabul regime. So, but China is comfortable because China has, done reasonably well on the count of, what threats they were receiving from this emanating out of Afghanistan. So there is no militancy in China. Pakistan is suffering from this epicenter of, terror in Afghanistan. So Pakistan need to, either it is SEO, we have the mechanism for rats, or some other arrangement. It could be Russia, China, or any of these options. But we have to exert pressure.
I get your point. I get your point.
UN Sanctions Committee report is something which we're looking at, and we should continue to build up, because it is something which they had the first damn war on. So if this is going to be the order of the day, then we want some accountability on that, because we are facing terrorism. Yes, we would look into the regional approach as well, because that's a possible option for us. But at the same time, we need to understand that there has to be some international responsibility with regards to this 20-year war in Afghanistan. You can't leave a country with endless weapons, with endless terrorism.
Is there any way now to retrieve those weapons?
Yes, there is a way. The US law basically prescribes them that you cannot leave weapons like that
Once
in any conflict zones. Yes, it is their job to retrieve them. According to the US laws, US military laws, they are supposed to extract them. They are supposed to be accountable for them. According to the Chemicals Weapons Convention, they are accountable to the international community. They cannot leave. And
that is by the book. How to do it practically? Once they have fallen in the hands of the terrorists.
With your permission, they did that in case of the Soviet invasion for Stinger missile. They purchased each and every piece. So why can't
Okay,
they
you
do
bring
that?
in the weapons. For taking them out, you need to have to give them a price for
Dr.
that.
Don't you think, I have just, I need your comment and endorsement, don't you think we really need to revisit our Afghan policy? We are sticking to the same policy which was there before installation of this government.
I think we are revisiting it, and there is a lot of work under under the wraps in different quarters in Pakistan at the moment, because we need to seriously consider Pakistan's future options, and putting Pakistan center. Pakistan's Afghan policy is under review. We will review it. We will want the countries to be accountable, whether it's United States, whether it's Afghanistan. You cannot leave regions into conflict and perpetual misery.
Point well taken. Unfortunately, we are short of time. I'll have to go to Mr. Hassan Khan as well. Mr. Hassan Khan, this upgradation of the diplomatic relations between Pakistan and the interim Afghan authorities, as per your understanding, do we understand that Pakistani authorities are doing things differently as far as their Afghan policy is concerned? And do we understand it a precursor to the official recognition of the interim Afghan authorities as the legitimate authority there?
Look, Jawad, first, I think it has been almost 2 months now when Pakistan and Afghanistan formally agreed to upgrade the diplomatic mission. Pakistan has done that. Kabul has accepted the Pakistan's ambassadors in Afghanistan. However, Pakistan is still reluctant to issue the agreement to the Afghan ambassadors, who is Sardar Shukeb, who is currently staying in Islamabad. He is still being treated as CDA, charged the affair, because his agreement is not yet being issued to him. 1, 2. Yes, definitely, I think Pakistan's... my point is a bit different here. Yes, Pakistan's need to run with the international community to engage the regional club also. However, keeping in view the diverging interests of the superpowers and the regional powers in Afghanistan, Pakistan's need to chalk its own way. And definitely it has to get engaged with the regional and the international setup also. But better it would be Pakistan's follow its own road vis-a-vis Afghanistan. And that there shall be a policy. Unfortunately, so far as I'm listening to Dr. Maria, she is saying that Pakistan's Afghan policy is under review. It would have been good, I think, if there was Pakistan's Afghan policy. I think Pakistan's Afghan policy is based on daily basis, weekly basis, and monthly basis. We do not have, unfortunately, an Afghan policy which defines...
Mr. Hassan Khan, one last question. I want your quicker answer in terms of yes or no, with a very brief answer associated with that. If Pakistan follows an independent policy towards Afghanistan, irrespective of what regional collective thought process happens to be, what the overall international community thinks about it, and keeping in that policy towards Afghanistan, Pakistani authorities decide as a leverage to give them official recognition as the de jure authorities there in Afghanistan. Do you think that move could guarantee that the Afghan soil won't be used for any terrorist activities against Pakistan? Would the Afghan Taliban ensure that? Would there be any sort of guarantee after that official recognition? Same question to you both also, but very brief answer to that, please.
I think this is quite unfortunate that the Afghan government or the Afghan regime is trying to, in a way, blackmail Pakistan on this issue. But I think it will be too difficult for Pakistan to go its own way as far as the recognition is concerned, because already as the reaction shown by the United States in the UN General Assembly over the Russian recognition of the Afghan government. So I think at this moment, when Pakistan is being accepted in international community, Pakistan has good relations with the US, with the Russia, with the China, and with the West simultaneously. At this moment, I think it will not be feasible to say for a cut-off decision and go for a solo recognition of Afghan Taliban. I think be close to...
No, is a regional consensus developing after Russia's recognition, after the upgradation of diplomatic relations as far as Central Asian states are concerned, Pakistan is concerned, and China is concerned?
I think, look, Pakistan has to look at itself. How much I think we can go off the international track. That's the reason that where the international community is touchy about the Afghan issue, we have to be careful treading that path. But where we can...
I get your point, Mr. Hassan Khan. I'll have to go quickly to Dr. Maria. Dr. Maria, if we're making a decision of officially recognizing the Afghan Taliban, do you think it's going to guarantee that there doesn't happen to be terrorism that emanates from Afghan soil?
A single point agenda may not work. So we may need to diversify our engagement with the Afghan Taliban, the interim government, and also to see what is it that we want to offer and what is it that we have leverage. So whether it is the refugee issue, whether it's the trade issue, you have a lot of things in your court which you can use. But one thing is for sure, you need to have a broad-based engagement and a broad-based policy which would look into regional and also international concerns. You will have to play the whole 360 azimuth if you want the Afghan government and the interim government to recognize that Pakistan is important for the future dispensation.
Right, Mr. Ijaz.
My answer is no, because in my reckoning, they neither have the capacity nor intent to control TTP. So whatever we may do, unless we follow this full spectrum approach, as Dr. Sabha is saying, we will not be able to have any dividends regardless of what effort we make.
Mr. Air Vice Marshal Retired Ijaz Malik, senior analyst, thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Maya Sultan, defense analyst, thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. And on the video link, Mr. Hassan Khan. Mr. Hassan Khan, Afghan affairs expert, taking time out for views on news tonight. Really appreciate that. Also, with that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.